degree in things, I found that swimming was a big part of my life. And, it really was the reason I got hired for my first job. Oddly enough, in sales, my first job was with Pfizer. And after I got hired, I was wondering, there were a lot of people with way more experience than I had who had gotten these jobs. And the hiring manager, she pulled me aside. She said, you know what? We know that athletes are determined. They know how to set goals. They know how to keep on track for their goals. And that's really what sales was about. And that's why I was able to be successful, because I knew how to set goals and actually go out and work towards them. And I wasn't afraid of that. And that was probably one of the reasons I've been successful as an account manager in the pharmaceutical industry. But the pharmaceutical industry was something I had never heard of as a young person. I did not know what the making of medications and selling of medications was all about. And Pfizer was my first foray into that. And selling medication for people with hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, arthritis really did give me a bird's eye view to, oh my gosh, I do not want this for my life, nor do I want that for any of my friends. I don't want it for my family. How can I, use my life as a way to help people to move in a direction that is towards better health? Because it really was scary. I had never known, what hypertension or diabetes could do. Or any of these, depression, any of these illnesses. And I do know what they can do now. And, I'm not saying that anything that I'm doing is going to prevent that, because I would never say that. But what I am saying is that when you are more mindful and prepared and consistent with adding healthy habits, you have the opportunity to do better in whatever stage you're at on your health journey. And that's what my goal is. And that's where I am today. I am a person who is a creator of the Seasonal Healthy Habits Collective. And that's what our goal is, to make women take themselves and their health, not take themselves seriously, because I think we take ourselves seriously, but prioritize health first.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Even I resonate with your story, because even as a physician, seeing chronic illness after chronic illness, and realizing that I really wanted to be more on the preventive side of that, in terms of the things that we can do, taking control of the things that we have control over. Obviously, we don't have control over everything, but there are some things that we can control. So I really can resonate with what you were saying.
I mean, let's face it, over 80% of illness that people have is preventable. However, if it was that simple, people would be preventing things right on time. Nobody wants to not feel good. And that's, what I've learned during this pandemic is that what I know is that people in my neighborhood are exercising more, they're out more, especially early in the pandemic when people had more time. So what I noticed was that there was a need of pull towards, hey, if I have more time, I'm going to do more exercise. And so I was very hopeful with that signing of more people exercising, early in the pandemic. So it's just one of those things.
Well, as we are approaching fall, I still have not made peace with the fact that summer is ending. But anyway, I guess inevitably I will have to. As we're approaching fall, it's a great time for a reset or a refresh. As the seasons change, it's a great time to take inventory. So I'm really curious to know how you got interested in seasonal health habits. That's a little different than what we normally hear.
It is a little different. And like I said, early in my career in the early 90s, I was, working in Harlem, and I noticed that there was a place called the Harlem Holistic Health Center. So, of course, I'm in the health field. I said, well, let me go in here and check this out. And I met a woman named Daya who had a fasting group that met seasonally. She invited me to join, and I said, you know what, I'm going to join. But what I didn't realize that it was like a 21-day commitment. 7 days you get off of your normal diet, 7 days you're on a juice fast, and then 7 more days to get back to your normal diet. But what she introduced me to was a way of resetting seasonally and being mindful of what organ systems are associated with each season,
Mhm.
irregardless of whether I know in depth of what the organ system is. But what I do know is now I'm aware. You know what? I'm aware of my skin as one of the largest organs, in our body. I'm aware of my circulatory system, what's keeping me going, my heart. So each season is associated with an organ system. And just having that awareness makes people say, you know what can I do this season that's going to, work on this particular organ system? And it never fails that, eating more healthy foods and moving your body are two of the things that do a lot of good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got interested in in having a seasonal reset. And I did that for many years.
That is very interesting. I never knew that each season is correlated with a different body system. So I'm
Traditional
gonna
Chinese medicine. Check it out.
okay. Okay.
Yep.
Um, there's so much wisdom in ancient practices
Mhm.
that we don't always take advantage of being, so focused on Western medicine.
Mhm.
So that's awesome that you're kind of bringing together all of your science knowledge from the pharmaceutical industry with Western wisdom
Mhm.
and just giving people options to have a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, I think people do want options, and they want ways to be healthy without, having to spend a lot of money, without having to buy a lot of equipment and do a lot of stuff that they're not really prepared to do.
Absolutely. So you mentioned fasting.
Mhm.
What are other things that you would consider seasonal health habits?
Well, we're in the season right now of Virgo. That's another season that we kind of look at. And the astrological seasons are also something that many people pay attention to. And every astrological sign is associated with a body region.
Mhm.
And the Virgo season is focuses on the core. So, for example, this September, the people that are in the Seasonal Healthy Habits Collective, we're working on core values. So we take
Mhm.
metaphors very, very seriously. And I wouldn't even say I'm a metaphors person, but it is something to think about because, like you said, we need to think about resetting, and the core values are very important. What are your core values? What's important to you? How are you spending your time? And if being healthy is important to you, well, let's think about it. Write down what you do all day. Look at it. I'm not judging you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not judging jury. This is for you. This introspective work is for you to look at and review. And if that is not connecting to what your core values are, then,
Mhm.
how can you strengthen that? And we also there are some exercises that I recommend to strengthen your core. And lo and behold, I've never seen this not work. When you strengthen your body, you strengthen who you are and you present with your core values more
Mm.
confidently. And it's just one of those things. The body is such a way that it brings our presentation forward in such vivid view for people. You know, when we feel strong on the inside, no matter what our size is, and people think, oh, size, I might be a little overweight, or I might be heavier than I'd like. I'm not going to be strong. Au contraire, there is strength at every size. And when you strengthen your body, you strengthen your core values. So
Mm.
it's just we do that type of seasonal work as well every month. So it is some introspection that's going on along with, because being healthy is so much more than what you eat and how many steps you're doing. Because I mean that's great, but it's just a lot more, a lot more.
I love how you said, when you feel strong, you present with your core values. That's just imagining and visioning that. That's just beautiful. Um, because everything is connected. You know, the mental, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual.
Mhm.
It's all connected, and
Yeah.
so you can get to one through the other. So what
Yes.
that does is it gives me hope. So for the one that maybe I have more challenges in, if I can strengthen the other one, it's going to benefit the area that I'm maybe having more challenges in.
So take, for example, working the wheel of the astrological seasons. Every season is focuses on a different region. And my sign is Capricorn. So the Capricorn, the knees region are what we focus on. And the knees are about stability and moving and how to move yourself forward. Pisces is about the foot. The feet hold you up. Are you able to flex? Are you able to pivot? These are all metaphors that we look at each month when we move into a new astrological season, which is also wrapped up in fall, winter, spring, or summer. But it gives us another angle to think about areas of our lives where we need to be communicating more of what we need to people, where we need to be connecting more deeply with
Mhm.
others, because surface connections aren't doing it for us anymore. At this stage in our lives, we want to connect more deeply with people and
Mhm.
really feel those connections. And looking at these particular seasons helps us to get a little bit more, a little different lens of what we're going through in our own lives.
Absolutely. And I have to ask about my season, which is Leo. So
Ooh, Leo is fire. Do, do, do. Leo is the heart. The heart center is Leo. And Leo is about being out there with your heart. And that is not easy, to be seen and be visible with what's important to you, what's pumping blood through your veins, that's keeping you alive. That Leo is strong in the heart center. It's the upper back and the upper back and the heart. That's where Leo is. So be very strong in that area, and
okay.
ways to strengthen it to keep you, to keep that posture very
Mhm.
open. You can tell, and that's another thing that when we go through the seasons, we can tell through the posture, if you need some uplifting and strengthening in that area.
Mhm.
Sometimes we see people who are sunken,
Mhm.
and we know that maybe there's something going on in the heart center. Maybe it's a broken heart, maybe. And it's not for me to decide. It's not for me to know. But when we're in a group together, it's for you to look inward and say, is my heart broken? Could it be anything? Could have been
Yeah.
25 years ago. Have I gotten that out of the system yet? Do I
Yeah.
need to do some reflective work on that? So yeah, Leo.
Awesome. Thank you for explaining that and introducing this concept I've never heard before.
The
Um,
concept is called body astrology.
okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Body astrology.
Yep.
Now, I have been stalking your Facebook page just a little bit, and I really do love your videos and love how you put yourself out there often to share with your community and the other content that I found. And one of your videos talked about combining the woo with the science. And I think we just talked a little bit about the woo
Yep.
in terms of the astrology.
Yep.
And so, how do you combine that with the science? Because you have a high science background too in the pharmaceutical industry.
Well, there are a couple of ways because woo is great and woo helps us to be reflective, but there are many validated tools that have been studied at, let's say, for instance, the Greater Good Institute out at the University of California at Berkeley. One of the tools that we use in our group, I, didn't realize it had been studied. I've been doing a gratitude practice for decades. I have that established in my being. And who knew that this has really been studied in science with people who are sitting around? That's their job to say, does this work better than nobody doing a gratitude practice? And yes, it does.
Mhm.
That is a fact. Get a gratitude practice rolling in your life, and you're going to feel better. You're going to feel
Absolutely.
better. So, the Greater Good Institute has a toolkit, and I use some of the tools from the Greater Good toolkit. Another one of the tools that I use is laddering. There is a concept that is called laddering, where you start small and you increase. Now, this seems like common sense, right? If you want to get on say you want to start cooking more, you don't go and buy 7 days worth of meal of food. You go buy 1 day or two and say, you know what, maybe I'm going to cook 2 days this week, and see what happens. And then if that works out, then maybe next week you try to cook 3 days a week. Because as a seasonal sister, we're all about cooking at home sometimes
Mhm.
because we know what goes into our food and we can adjust the salt and the sugar because we don't want to go without. We want our food to be tasty and delicious. So we want to make it at home and dip and dab. But the point is, laddering is a tool that has been shown to increase people's stick to itiveness, for lack of a better word, to
Mhm.
any plan that they're going to do. So those are just two ways. And I have to say that there's another theory called the fresh start effect.
Mhm.
Now, I met Daya in 1992 on 125th Street. I don't know if there's any data dating back to 1992 on the fresh start effect, but the fresh start effect is now in literature at the University of Pennsylvania on behavior change. So
Mhm.
that is how you can look at the science catching up to what people who have been involved in their health and being healthy have been doing for millennia. So
Mhm.
the fresh start effect says, hey, listen, when there's a special occasion, which I have turned seasons into a special occasion, hey, Kay, I have turned seasons into a special occasion. And now that special occasion is a reason for us who are seasonal sisters to start fresh. Because let's face it, by September, we forgot what we were doing in June when summer started.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, everything we had on our plate, the streaks we were on, maybe we were drinking water, maybe we were exercising every day, whatever is 3 times a week, whatever it was we were trying to do, many of us have fallen off,
Mhm.
and we need that reset to get back on, because what we did in the summer may not necessarily be what we're going to do in the fall. because our fall is so different.
Right. Or what we need to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, right. What we need to do. You may have, and that's the other thing. We think, oh, what our goals were in June are going to be our same goals in September, which
Right.
sometimes that's true. But right now, my most important thing now has changed in September from what it was in June.
Hmm.
So now I've got new focused. And everybody does. This is we change our clothing, we change our makeup, we change everything seasonally, but we don't think about changing our rituals for health seasonally, which could be the first thing.
Yeah. And another thing is that seasonally, a lot of us, our mental health shifts or our emotions shift. A lot of people have seasonal affective disorder. I know in the wintertime, my mood is lower.
Mhm.
So if I'm thinking about healthy habits from a perspective of seasons, then probably when I get to the winter season, I
Mhm.
probably want to change some priorities in terms of what my healthy habits are to address what I know are some of the issues that come up during those seasons. So that's
That's
a great
that's
thing.
a fact. And
Hmm.
we can all feel right now the light is dwindling, because once we start moving into, closer to the fall season, we know that the light outside, we're losing daylight hours and we feel it. We feel ourselves losing daylight hours and that affects us. So what does that mean? How would you change what you're doing? What the one thing we got to do is prioritize it. So we know if that's an issue, if you have the opportunity, one of the things that you can do is maybe take a break around 2:30 in the afternoon and walk around your parking lot at your job if you
Hmm.
can, because then you're prioritizing getting some of that sun vitamin and sitting there and drinking it in a little bit, getting it into your soul. Even if you've got on a winter coat, that's still
Yeah.
going to do something good for you.
Okay. I'm still in that. I like that idea because it does, like, I get irritated,
Mm.
especially if I work a long day and I miss the sunlight, going, so just being intentional about grabbing some sunlight
Yep.
and
Drinking it in. Just sit there.
drinking it in. And
Take
this
it
is
all the
another
way
great
in.
suggestion that Cara has. She
Yep.
says she makes a new vision board quarterly to
Mm.
reflect the seasonal shifts.
That
Um,
is a seasonal fresh start right there. There's 4 seasons, there's 4 quarters. She's already um, giving herself a fresh start. I love it. I completely love it. Yeah.
and someone else mentioned the holidays. That I mean, that's like a whole season unto itself, right? All
Well,
the
I'll tell you, the
holidays.
holidays can derail you. However, when you prioritize your health during the holidays, everybody that you're around is going to be healthier. Believe it. Not only will you be less overwhelmed, less up to here with everything you've got to do, you'll learn how to use what I call the 5 ways to be healthier to take yourself down a few notches. I mean, one is, we don't drink enough water. I mean, let's be realistic. That is just one of the simple things that we can do is prioritize hydration, even in the winter, even of course, in the summer. And we also want to prioritize movement and outdoors if we can, even if it's just 15, 20 minutes of walking around your parking lot twice, that's going to do something for you.
Mhm.
And we also want to prioritize breathing, and using breath to help us feel better. I mean, there are all types of breathing that you can do. And we talk about those in the Seasonal Healthy Habits Collective that can take down your stress because sometimes we don't know how to, decommission all that anxiety that's in our body.
Mhm.
And we need to take control of that because that's just producing cortisol. That's not helping us. And that's
Mhm.
just taking us down a road that we don't want to be on. And we can do something about that. And using our breath is one of the things that we can do. And of course, there is always getting our rest. During the holidays, how many times are we leading into the holiday thing? We have
Yeah.
already stayed up 3 nights, chopping, cooking, putting stuff in the freezer, like making sure we got the whole dinner ready because we know so and so can't cook and it's going to be a long night and we don't want it to be like that. So we overdo, and learning how to just take our rest,
Mhm.
prioritize our rest is an important thing. And of course, eating more healthy foods. Those are just 5 things that they're in our mind, but oftentimes, we're not prioritizing them with our actions. We prioritize them in our mind for sure, because, oh, we know
Right.
we want to be healthy. But then our actions kind of take us to, well, it's not really a priority.
Right. Absolutely. Now, you've mentioned the Healthy Habits Collective. So I am just curious. So exactly what is it? Because do you have a different group every season? Do you have the same group? How long does it last? What does it entail? I just want all the details.
All the deeds. Well, I'll tell you, I am going to be talking about adding seasonal healthy habits. It just so happens this Sunday, okay, in a masterclass called Add Seasonal Healthy Habits. We're going to be getting into a lot of why adding seasonal healthy habits is important, and how this simple practices can help you to have more energy to do everything that you love. Now, the Seasonal Healthy Habits Collective is, you can join seasonally, and we're leading into joining for the fall season. And what do? We meet every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. There is coaching every single Monday, just about, unless it's a holiday. We're not coaching. But we have Mondays where we introduce, the first Monday of the month, I introduce what we're talking about and what the focus is for the month. And whether it's, whatever astrological season we're talking about, maybe we're also going to talk about, if there's some type of winds of change going on, we'll talk about how that might be showing up in our lives, personally and professionally. And there'll be some reflective questions to go through on Mondays. And you use your workbook at your pace. There's always affirmations in the workbook. There's always a recipe. There's always my signature, one fact, one tip, and one recipe every time. And it's never just one tip, because you can't get away with one tip. And so that's Monday. That's the first Monday. The second Monday is about coaching to grow. It's a simple coaching model that I teach that each person can use on their own when faced with something that they need to, get on right away. You know, and then on the third Monday, we read one book a season. Like this season, we're reading Intuitive Eating. It's by, I forgot who it's by, but it's a workbook. So we're working through that workbook. It's the Principles of Intuitive Eating. We
Mhm.
have read Connect, which is the touchy-feely book about connections from the authors at Stanford. We've also read Die Empty, which is a great book as well. So we've read a few books. We read one book a season, and then on the last Monday we celebrate with Mocktail Monday, and that's everybody's favorite. I always share the mocktail that I'm making, and everybody brings a faux cocktail. Some people bring regular, it doesn't matter, and to the event. And we talk about our wins, because when do we get the opportunity to prioritize how healthy we are?
Mhm.
I mean, and what you've done. It's really something. I mean, we prioritize everyone else's wins. But when do we sit back and say, I won? When is Dr. Stephanie saying, I have done how many podcasts? Celebrate good times. Come on. I
Yeah.
mean, we've got to celebrate what we do that keeps us healthy, because this podcast is part of you connecting with people on a deeper level. And that connection keeps you vibrant and healthy.
I love how you put that in the health category. I mean, I do. I am intentional about celebrating, but I would never have thought to think of my podcast as something that keeps me healthy. So thank you for that.
In the world of seasonal sisters, honey, there's three things that encompass how good we can feel and keep us healthy and strong. And one of them is our body. Like, let's be real. If our body, and that means our mind and our body, is strong, and then we feel good. And then there's about, what are we communicating? Are we communicating our values to people? Are we sharing what matters most to us? Are we really getting our message across to people? That's another thing that's very important to how we feel. It makes us feel good when we're able to do that effectively. And the other thing is connecting with people. And that's where your podcast comes in. Your podcast keeps you connected to people and allows you to spread that with others. And what greater feeling is there when you're connecting with people on that level? So that's where connecting, and connecting is different for everyone. Some people in the group, they want to connect with their daughter. They want to connect with their intimate partner in a better way. I'll give everyone who's listening another little pearl. There's another validated tool that is called 36 Questions to Closeness. And this tool is, it's on the internet, but what's great about it is that this tool has been studied to increase closeness between people when used properly. Just questions, nothing, gone are the days when you ask somebody, how you doing? You're not going to get anything from that. How was your day? What are you learning? They got stuck in a traffic jam. You want more. And in the Seasonal Healthy Habits Collective, we challenge each other nicely, of course, to use these tools. Who are you going to use it with? What are you going to say? How are you going to respond? So because it's an exchange. So connecting is very important to feeling good, because if we're not connected, you're isolated and alone. And that's just not what anyone wants.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to feel healthy and good when you're isolated and alone. And there are a lot of people who even are in groups and all of these organizations that are isolated and alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things I always ask about on my podcast is limiting beliefs. And I'm just curious as to what limiting beliefs you had to overcome in order to get to this point of embracing this healthy lifestyle that you're living.
Well, I think limiting beliefs are just tough. And I think my major thing is rejection. That's one of my limiting beliefs. And I have rejection is one of those things that it's going to happen. You're going to get rejected from jobs. You're going to get every conversation you embark on may not have the outcome that you desired. And that may be a form of rejection. You feel, I'm in sales, so I'm getting rejected all day long. So my skin has gotten thick. But rejection is one of those things that I have had to learn how to work with in order to move forward. I mean, you can't be an entrepreneur and have rejection be something that's going to be a 45-pound weight on your ankle, because it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard to ask somebody to join your group. It's going to be hard to share what you're all about with people if you're afraid that you're going to get rejected. It's tough, but I had to overcome that. And it is, how did I overcome it? I used the ladder principle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been in business for a long time, and, I do videos, once a week, and I
I
didn't
saw
always.
all those lives you do, and lives is one of those things that I have that little a little limiting belief around. So I was like, she got all these lives.
Well, it's not only that too, it's the shame of, oh my goodness, only one person viewed it. So there's a lot wrapped up
Mhm.
in Instagram lives. You know, you got to start small and be consistent. And so here we go. We got to be mindful of how that makes us feel. I'm going to walk you through one of our tools. Boy, does that make me feel nervous and scared, and I feel like, gosh, I might even feel a little bit of shame if nobody comes on my live. But you know what? I'm not the only person who feels this way. There are billions of people on the internet doing lives where nobody is looking at their lives either. And they may feel the exact same way. But you know what? What you have to say, Janice, is important. And there may be one person who clicks in or who shares it with a friend who may get something. So keep it up. You're going to be all right, girl. And that's what you would tell a friend. So we
Absolutely.
have to get to that point where we give ourselves that compassion and we're telling ourselves what we might tell a friend. And we
Mhm.
learn how to do this in the Seasonal Healthy Habits Collective, because that's not something that we're trained to do, but it is something that helps us to overcome limiting beliefs.
Mhm. That was great. That was a great example. Thank you. I appreciate the pep talk for the. I think I'll do a live on Monday.
Got to be prepared too. Prepare for your lives. People walking around talking about they don't prepare for their lives. That is not true. You have a content planner, prepare for your lives.
Hmm.
You know what you're going to say. So be prepared, and then you got to get consistent with it.
Absolutely. There was something else that I found curious when I was on your page. You had a post about a recommendation of attending faith based service
Mm,
as one of the things that helps you to stay healthier. So
that's
I would just love to hear how your faith intersects with your healthy habits and why you think it's important for us to incorporate that into our seasonal healthy habits.
very good question. I think faith without works is one of those things that is not going to give you the results that you desire. And I think that one of the things that in the blue zones, it's a book about people who in 9 different places across the earth, of the globe rather, these people live to be over 100. They become centenarians. And one of the things that they do is they have a tribe that where they have, they believe in something. So that's how that faith-based comment came onto my website, on my page. But the point is, if you have faith but you don't do any work and you've set a goal out there, it's
Mhm.
going to be really difficult to reach that. You got to do some work. And it's very curious how we set goals. And one of the things, exercise is so easy to talk about, but we set a lot of goals. But exercise is one of those. Let's talk about writing a book. There may be some authors out there. Well, you may be sitting driving in your car, right? And you're like, you know what? I'm going to get up at 5 every morning for the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to really dive into my book. While you're driving is not the best time to set the goal of writing your book at 5 a.m.
But that's when I get all my best ideas, when I'm driving and I can't write them down and then I forget them when I'm done driving.
You need to use voice record on your phone.
That's what I do. I'll just say, "Hey Siri," and
Yep.
just
And tune it right in. However, the time to set the goal, and this is another thing that's been validated by people who study what goals actually get done and what doesn't get done. The people who set goals while they're doing the goal, those are the people who actually stick to what they're doing. And that's interesting because if you say, hey, you get up at 5, you start writing and you're like, you know what, I think this is a good thing for me, I'm going to keep doing this. That's when you're actually more likely to stay to that, as opposed to, you know when you're driving, you say, hey, I'm going to do that, or when you're having dinner, hey, I'm gonna get up and do that. So that those are different ways that we maximize the tools of science to actually be just begin to be sticking to our goals more actively.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So the last thing I wanted to ask you is, what advice do you have someone who is brand new to the concept of seasonal healthy habits? How can they get started?
Well, I'd say if you're new, join me in my masterclass on Sunday, Add Seasonal Healthy Habits. And if you want to do something, it's a great time to say, hey, what's fresh in the produce aisle? What's in season in the fall? We have corn that's in season, figs are in season, and start experimenting with those products, let's say, with those foods, and do something easy. That's on the food side. That's something that you could do on the
Mhm.
food side. And on the moving your body side, I would say paying attention to when there's daylight, getting outside and walking in nature.
Mhm.
That's a seasonal healthy habit that you can do throughout every season. And that is another tool that produces all the goods, all the good stuff in your body. So I think, but start small. Don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Like, don't try to say, well, I'm going to do one, two, I'm going to do all five things every day. Give yourself one thing a week. I'm going to make a seasonal meal with seasonal foods once a week. And then move forward. And if you need, help with that, by all means, reach out because we've got plans and there's a whole lot to seasonal healthy living.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect segue into my next question, which is, how do we reach out? How can we follow you? How can we join the masterclass or join the Seasonal Healthy Habits Collective?
Well, I hope that you'll follow me on Instagram at the real Janice Saunders. On my Instagram page, you'll be able to find a link to the masterclass, which is this Sunday, September 11th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard. But you'll also be able to, stay connected to me by downloading my free gift, 5 Ways to Be Healthier. And then we'll be in communication, incommunicado. My website, you can click into that and look around and see what's there. But just send me a DM, introduce yourself, let me know that you heard about what we're doing on the SOAR podcast so I can know you're a SOAR friend. I would be happy to meet you.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
really how to get connected.
Awesome. Thank you. This was a really inspiring conversation. I definitely learned a lot that I didn't know. And I feel like I can leave this conversation and pick that one thing or that second thing to at least get started with thinking about it from a seasonal perspective. And I think that's a really helpful framework.
Mhm.
Um, so I really appreciate your time. And we have someone else who said it was wonderful and thanking you. Another one of our sorors, that's what we call ourselves.
Nice. Okay.
But thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.
Well, I don't want to end just yet. I want to thank you, Dr. Stephanie, and I want you to give us your what are you going to start with your seasonal healthy habit? What are you going to do tomorrow?
So, what I am going to start with is the suggestion that you had of the seasonal foods, to
Okay.
really look at what's in season and make something once a week. Once a week, that's a big one for me. Cooking is not something that I do all the
Then
time.
start with once a month.
Okay. Oh,
Start
okay.
with once a month. Don't you see what I'm saying? You see
I
what I'm
see what
saying?
you're saying.
Start with once a month. because we
Okay.
think that we need to be Betty Crocker, but if we're not, then we need, or B. Smith, we got to start where we are. Check in. I'm going to be posting this month the what is the one I'm doing? Baked figs with maple syrup and cinnamon, because figs
Ooh,
are in season in September.
I
So,
love
and
figs.
figs aren't something that are in a staple food in the African American diet.
Mm-mm.
And one of the things that is important about being a seasonal sister is experimenting with new foods and preparing foods in different ways, tasting them with new taste buds, and being and deciding, hey, I like that. That is tasty. So I'm
Okay.
glad to hear you're going to try that.
I will try that because I like figs.
Okay. I hadn't had a fig in since I was in my 30s. And I was like, wow, I never heard of this. This is
Oh,
good. So I think that this is it's something to experiment with.
absolutely. All right.
Can we ask
Well,
Julianne what she's going to do? Julianne, if you're still there, what are you going to do with your seasonal thinking about seasonal healthy habits? Let's see if she types something in.
yeah, if anybody knows what they're going to do for a seasonal healthy habit, feel free to type it in the comments.
Since we have
Oh, wait, I think I might have one here.
okay, seasonal vegetables, wonderful. Okay, that's great. Salt free. Okay. All
Okay.
vegetables are salt free. You know, when you pull them out of the ground, they don't have salt on them.
So no need to add it, huh?
Okay, and Julie's going to focus on her workout program. Well, you know, let me just share this. Sometimes when this is an interesting thing too when it comes to workouts. Sometimes we do Pilates when we really need to be doing cardio. You know, and we got to decide like what are, and many times our workout goals are not hit. Like we have the politically correct thing in our mind where we say, oh, I don't want to lose weight, I'm not out here to try to lose weight. But really in the back of our mind, we know we need to, but we really want to lose that, you know, that last 10 pounds or that last 15 pounds, and we need to tone up. But then we're just, you know, then we're doing Pilates, and that's not giving us the cardio that we need. I mean, we got to recognize as African American women, 49% of us, African American women, have cardiovascular disease by the
Mhm.
time we're 20 years old. So
Mhm.
cardio needs to be in our workout plan. Because sometimes, I mean, I meet people and they have a workout plan and it has nothing to do with cardio, and they said they want to lose 25 pounds. So it's very hard. We got to make sure that what we want, we've honestly said what we want. We've honestly
Mhm.
reflected on it, and we're okay with it because nobody's judging what I want out of my plan, and nobody is judging you out of what you want. So I think that's an important thing. More sleep.
It is.
I love that. If you feel tired, Laquita, if you feel tired, then yes, get more sleep. But there's a lot of data out there that shows some people don't need 8 hours of sleep. Some people need less, some people need more. But manage your night routine, manage your day routine.
Mhm.
Start cutting stuff off. You know what I mean? You know, maybe an hour or 30 minutes before, start making your night routine something that reflects sleep or loving. Okay. You know, like let's stop taking the computers and phones and all this stuff to bed with us so that, you know, we can't do what we need to do when we get under the covers. Those types of things prevent us from resting, you
Mhm.
know. And another waking up at, you know, the same time, making sure your room is dark. I mean, these are things that are obvious, but they're really not obvious sometimes, and they prevent us from you know, getting the sleep that we need, because sleep is restorative for all of our bodily functions, you know. So
Well,
yes.
we have a nice variety of seasonal healthy habits that people have committed to doing, and
I'm
I
so glad
appreciate.
people joined and shared what they were interested in. And I'm glad I was able to provide a little bit of fun and, you know, share a little bit about it. It's all good.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, being individualizing it because that's one of the benefits of this platform is that people can leave comments and you can speak directly to them. And that's even better than just kind of listening on the podcast. So I appreciate that. All right. Well, I just want everyone to have a wonderful weekend and a happy rest of the Friday. And thank you again, Janice. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Dr. Stephanie, for having me. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Good night.